Missed you though. Missed you so. Yes.
In the early 2000s, Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie were the inseparable heiresses of Hollywood's golden youth. Cameras captured their every laugh, every matching outfit, every perfectly posed red carpet moment. For audiences, they weren't just co-stars. They were best friends, sisters by choice, symbols of glamorous rebellion in a world obsessed with celebrity culture. But behind the diamond-studded smiles, the story was far messier. By 2005, headlines no longer celebrated their bond. They questioned its very existence. On April 21, 2005, People magazine published Paris Hilton's blunt statement. "It's no big secret that Nicole and I are no longer friends. Nicole knows what she did." That single sentence sent shockwaves across pop culture, transforming a carefully marketed friendship into a public feud. Fans who had embraced the simple life as proof of their sisterhood were suddenly confronted with a brutal truth. The illusion was cracking. Was their friendship ever genuine, or just another Hollywood product packaged for ratings and press coverage? This is the story of how two socialites became the ultimate best friends brand, and how that image collapsed under the weight of fame, ego, and the relentless demands of reality television. And to understand it, we need to go back to where the illusion began. Long before television transformed them into icons, Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie shared a childhood in Los Angeles that seemed destined for celebrity. Their families, Hilton Hotels on one side, Lionel Richie's music empire on the other, circulated in the same rarefied social circles. The two girls attended the same schools, partied in the same Beverly Hills mansions, and were photographed together at a time when paparazzi culture was beginning to reshape the very definition of fame. To many insiders, they were simply lifelong friends. To the public, however, they would soon become something much bigger. That shift happened in December 2003, when Fox premiered The Simple Life. The concept was deceptively simple. Take two wealthy, spoiled heiresses and drop them in rural Arkansas to live without money, technology, or privilege. On paper, it looked like a throwaway gimmick. In reality, it became a pop culture earthquake. The premiere drew an astonishing 13 million viewers, numbers that shocked even industry insiders. The heart of the show's appeal wasn't just the fish-out-of-water comedy. It was the chemistry between Paris and Nicole, their shared eye rolls, inside jokes, and unfiltered banter that convinced audiences they weren't just co-stars. They were best friends, sisters united against the absurdity of normal life. Publicists and studio executives recognized this dynamic instantly. From the moment the ratings came in, Fox leaned hard into branding Paris and Nicole as inseparable. Press tours were booked as a package deal. Magazine spreads positioned them side by side in identical pastel outfits, with headlines like "Hollywood's Knew It Girls." Stylists mirrored their looks so closely that they often appeared like coordinated dolls, an aesthetic designed to feed tabloids hungry for images of perfect sisterhood. The marketing worked. Within months, they were no longer just reality stars. They were pop culture's most famous pair of best friends. The red carpets only reinforced the illusion. At the 2004 Teen Choice Awards, Paris and Nicole didn't just host together. They arrived in carefully choreographed fashion, ensuring every photo screamed BFF goals. Talk show bookings followed the same script. When they appeared on Late Night with Conan O'Brien or The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, questions were framed around their friendship. How did they survive life without cell phones? What secrets did they share? Could they ever imagine doing the show without each other? Every answer seemed to tighten the narrative. Paris and Nicole weren't just television partners, they were inseparable in real life. The illusion spread beyond entertainment media. Tabloids ran weekly features on their exploits in Los Angeles nightclubs. Their catchphrases, Paris's "That's hot" and Nicole's biting sarcasm, were replayed side by side as if scripted for a buddy comedy routine. Fashion magazines praised their coordinated style, dubbing them the new millennium's answer to Cher and Dion from Clueless. Even their missteps, run-ins with the paparazzi, messy nights out, were spun as charming evidence of two rebels navigating fame together. But beneath the glittering surface, the mechanics were transparent to anyone paying close attention. The Best Friends label wasn't just organic, it was a calculated product. The Simple Life's success relied on it, Fox's marketing depended on it, and Paris and Nicole's own rising celebrity brands were built upon it. In the early 2000s, sisterhood sold. Reality television was still new, and audiences craved not just characters, but relationships they could root for. By amplifying the image of Paris and Nicole as bonded heiresses, Hollywood created a friendship that felt undeniable. The longer the illusion was repeated, the harder it became to question. Viewers tuned in not for the farm chores or comedic tasks, but to watch the pair exchange knowing glances and laugh at the absurdity of rural life. Publicists doubled down, ensuring that Paris and Nicole were rarely seen apart during high-profile appearances. Each carefully staged moment hardened the narrative into something resembling truth. For a brief window in time, they weren't just individuals chasing fame. They were the embodiment of a cultural fantasy. Rich, beautiful, rebellious, yet loyal to each other against the world. But as history would soon prove, illusions never last forever. For a while, the illusion seemed untouchable. Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie were packaged, sold, and consumed as a single unit. Yet by late 2004, subtle cracks began to show. What started as whispers, an awkward distance in interviews, a missing appearance here and there, soon evolved into unmistakable signs of a friendship unraveling. The first hints came in the way the two women were scheduled. During the whirlwind press cycle for The Simple Life 2 in the summer of 2004, sharp-eyed reporters noticed the pair were occasionally interviewed separately, a shift from the double-act format Fox had so carefully curated. Red carpet photographers captured moments where Paris stood flanked by new Hollywood friends, while Nicole appeared in different clusters, her sharp humor contrasting with Paris's carefully rehearsed glamour. For fans used to seeing them glued together, the absences were glaring. Money and power played their part. Both stars were eager to expand beyond the show. Paris was cultivating her solo celebrity with fragrance launches, modeling gigs, and even a guest spot hosting Saturday Night Live in February 2005. Nicole, meanwhile, leaned into her comedic persona, fielding offers for hosting and developing her own projects. Behind the scenes, publicists and agents argued over credits, billing, and who had creative control. When tabloids reported that Paris was commanding higher appearance fees and her Hilton hotel lineage gave her more clout with sponsors, the seeds of inequality took root. Then there was the silence, on screen, on stage, and online. By the standards of the early 2000s, when celebrity blogs like Perez Hilton and TMZ were exploding, absence was louder than words. The two stopped mentioning each other in interviews. Nicole's sarcastic quips, once aimed affectionately at Paris, now landed with a sharper edge. Paparazzi, who had built their business photographing them side by side, began selling single shots of Paris exiting nightclubs with new companions, or Nicole arriving solo to events that once would have guaranteed a joint appearance. The pattern of absence crystallized in 2005. When Paris hosted Saturday Night Live in February, Nicole was nowhere to be seen. Instead, Paris leaned on her new social circle, most notably Kimberly Stewart, daughter of rock legend Rod Stewart. Fans noticed. Blogs buzzed with speculation that Nicole had been iced out. When Nicole appeared on NBC's Today Show in November 2005, she acknowledged the split with disarming brevity. "We just grew apart." Her words were calm, almost casual, but they underscored the widening gap between their narratives. Production realities of The Simple Life revealed even more. By season 4 in 2006, now airing on E, after Fox dropped the show, Paris and Nicole were no longer filmed together. Producers were forced to shoot their storylines separately, then edit footage to create the illusion they were still sharing the screen. Industry insiders later described how difficult the season was to stitch together. The pair refused to interact, and their management teams enforced strict boundaries on set. It was reality television at its most ironic. A show built on the illusion of friendship, forced to fake that very relationship in the editing room. Meanwhile, the tabloid press grew hungrier. Speculative headlines fueled the fire. Hilton and Richie on the rocks? Simple life, complicated friendship. Reporters pointed to Nicole's increasingly sardonic tone and Paris's growing empire, record deals, films like House of Wax, and endless endorsements, as evidence that the two were simply on different trajectories. What had once been sold, as sisterhood now looked like rivalry. By early 2006, the cracks were impossible to ignore. For audiences who had believed the myth of inseparability, the silence, the separate appearances, and the diverging career paths were shocking. Fans debated fiercely online. Had Paris abandoned Nicole in her climb to solo superstardom, or had Nicole chosen independence from a friend who often overshadowed her? The answer was less important than the perception. In Hollywood, perception is reality. And by 2005-2006, the reality was that Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie were no longer the best friends the public had been promised. The cracks were no longer rumors. They were the new storyline. By spring 2005, the tension that had simmered behind the scenes finally erupted into public view. On April 21st, People magazine published a brief but explosive statement from Paris Hilton. "It's no big secret that Nicole and I are no longer friends. Nicole knows what she did." That single sentence, blunt and mysterious, became the spark that ignited a tabloid firestorm. It wasn't just that Paris confirmed the friendship was over. It was the vagueness of her accusation. What exactly had Nicole done? And why was Paris willing to air it so publicly? Speculation ran wild. Some tabloids claimed Nicole had screened a raunchy parody tape of Paris at a private party. Others insisted jealousy over Paris's skyrocketing solo fame had poisoned the bond. With no official explanation, fans and gossip outlets filled the vacuum with endless theories. The once scripted best friends forever narrative had collapsed into something far juicier, an unsolved mystery wrapped in betrayal. The fallout rippled into their careers almost immediately. In October 2005, Fox announced it was canceling The Simple Life after 3 seasons, citing scheduling conflicts and declining interest. Industry insiders, however, were blunt. The show had lost its magic because its stars were no longer speaking. What good was a buddy comedy when the buddies refused to share a stage? The cancellation marked a turning point, shifting the saga from whispered gossip to institutional acknowledgement that the partnership was broken. The media devoured every morsel. Magazines like Us Weekly and Star ran splashy covers. Paris versus Nicole. No simple friendship. Headlines shouted about a civil war between heiresses, turning every solo outing into a clue. Paparazzi photographed Paris surrounded by new allies, from Kimberly Stewart to Lindsay Lohan, while Nicole leaned into her independence, dropping dramatic weight and adopting a bolder, edgier fashion persona. Their images began to diverge as sharply as their public personas. By late 2005, the feud had become a full-blown cultural event. On talk shows, hosts dropped sly jokes about the rift. Blogs chronicled their every move, and forums teemed with debates about Team Paris versus Team Nicole. Even without social media's amplification, this was pre-Instagram, pre-Twitter, the feud dominated pop culture chatter. It was the mid-2000s equivalent of a viral storm, driven by magazines, paparazzi, and the relentless hunger for celebrity drama. Nicole, for her part, attempted to downplay the chaos. In a November 2005 appearance on Today, she shrugged. "We just grew apart." Her explanation was simple, almost anticlimactic compared to the melodrama swirling around her. Paris, however, maintained her cryptic stance, never elaborating on what Nicole had done. That imbalance of narratives, one direct and subdued, the other accusatory but vague, only deepened the mystery. Then came the spectacle of Season 4. After Fox abandoned the show, E! Entertainment picked up The Simple Life, but the conditions were unprecedented. Paris and Nicole would not film together. Producers shot them separately, splicing footage in the editing room to simulate joint participation. For viewers, the artificiality was obvious. In one episode, Paris and Nicole appeared to interact at the same charity event, but insiders later revealed they had been filmed on different days. What had once been reality TV's golden friendship had now become reality TV's most glaring illusion. The mask had shattered. The very thing that made The Simple Life successful, the believable chemistry of two lifelong friends, was exposed as a fabrication. The scandal didn't just end their friendship in the public eye, it forced audiences to confront the uncomfortable truth that reality television wasn't real at all. By the end of 2005, the Paris-Nicole feud had taken on a life of its own. It was no longer a subplot to their fame. It was the story. The question was no longer whether they were friends. It was whether the entertainment industry had ever allowed them to be. The illusion had crumbled, and the world was watching the fallout in real time. The public feud may have been messy, but in Hollywood, even broken friendships can be monetized. Just weeks after Fox pulled the plug, E! Entertainment swooped in and announced in November 2005 that it would revive The Simple Life. The move was bold. Ratings had dipped, and the show's core appeal, Paris and Nicole's chemistry, was shattered. But E! understood something crucial. Audiences weren't ready to look away. If anything, curiosity about their fractured relationship was now the show's biggest selling point. The twist was unprecedented. For Season 4 in 2006, the heiresses filmed separately. Producers built episodes around thematic challenges, working as camp counselors, wedding planners, or daycare assistants, then stitched the footage together to create the illusion of collaboration. Behind the scenes, the women refused to interact. On screen, the seams showed. Viewers who once tuned in for natural banter now watched a carefully edited patchwork. Still, the ratings proved respectable, fueled less by laughter and more by voyeuristic fascination. Could a show about two ex-best friends pretending to still be together survive? The answer was yes, but only temporarily. By the summer of 2006, reports circulated that Paris and Nicole were quietly reconciling. Paparazzi snapped them together at parties. Publicists floated rumors of a truce. By Season 5 in 2007, the pair filmed side by side again. Yet the dynamic had changed. Their conversations felt more cautious, their body language stiffer. It was as if the producers, and perhaps the women themselves, knew the friendship was no longer the heart of the show, but the ghost haunting it. Fans and critics alike weighed in. Entertainment Weekly observed that the friendship had become its own storyline, a kind of meta-drama where the absence of intimacy was the very thing keeping audiences engaged. Think pieces in the New York Times and Los Angeles Times questioned why Hollywood so aggressively marketed female friendship, only to capitalize on its implosion. Was The Simple Life a reflection of reality, or the reason reality had turned sour? The consequences extended beyond television. Paris Hilton leaned further into her solo empire, releasing her debut album in August 2006, launching additional fragrances, and cementing her brand as the queen of mid-2000s celebrity culture. Nicole Richie, meanwhile, found her own reinvention. Her sharp wit turned her into a fashion insider, later solidified with her successful House of Harlow brand. Ironically, the feud that once threatened to overshadow her gave Nicole the space to carve out an identity distinct from Paris's shadow. Yet, the ghost of their fallout lingered. Every time Paris walked a red carpet without Nicole, tabloids whispered about the once inseparable duo. Every time Nicole appeared at a fashion event, headlines noted the absence of her former partner in crime. The friendship, or rather the lack of it, had become a character in its own right, shaping both of their narratives whether they liked it or not. By August 5, 2007, when The Simple Life aired its final episode, the show had run its course. Ratings had declined. The formula felt tired, and the Paris-Nicole storyline had burned through every permutation. Inseparable best friends, bitter enemies, reluctant co-workers, tentative allies. The curtain finally closed. But the cultural fascination with their relationship was far from over. Looking back, the aftermath revealed a paradox. The feud had damaged the authenticity of their brand, but it also prolonged their relevance. Without the scandal, The Simple Life might have faded quietly after 3 seasons. With it, Paris and Nicole remained fixtures of mid-2000s celebrity culture. Their friendship-turned rivalry becoming a cautionary tale of how Hollywood constructs and weaponizes relationships for entertainment. The absence, in many ways, became more powerful than their presence. And for Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie, that absence became a character no producer could script away. When the cameras stopped rolling in 2007, many assumed the Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie saga had ended. But in truth, their fractured friendship had already transcended the show. It became part of the cultural fabric of the 2000s, a case study in how Hollywood doesn't just tell stories, it manufactures relationships. The legacy begins with The Simple Life itself. The show proved that audiences weren't only interested in watching wealthy heiresses stumble through farm chores or customer service jobs. They were fascinated by the illusion of intimacy. Paris and Nicole were marketed as confidants, sisters, in spirit, bonded not just by privilege, but by loyalty. When that illusion cracked, the drama was even more compelling. In many ways, the implosion of their friendship taught television executives an enduring lesson. The packaging of closeness sells, but so does the spectacle of its collapse. Cultural critics later argued that Paris and Nicole's feud marked a turning point in reality television. What had begun as a playful social experiment evolved into a darker reflection of the entertainment industry itself. Even the most authentic-seeming bonds could be scripted, edited, or dissolved for ratings. As the 2010s ushered in franchises like Keeping Up with the Kardashians and Real Housewives, the DNA of The Simple Life was unmistakable. The template of selling sisterhood and exploiting its fractures had been set. But time has a way of reshaping narratives. By the late 2010s, Paris and Nicole's story no longer read as a tabloid feud, but as a nostalgic marker of a bygone era. In 2018, the two reunited on the red carpet, their smiles softer, their body language relaxed. A year later, in 2019, Nicole confirmed on Watch What Happens Live that they still kept in touch, brushing aside old bitterness with maturity. Then, in November 2021, Nicole attended Paris's lavish Bel Air wedding, a symbolic gesture that reignited headlines. The Simple Life reunion. For fans who had grown up on their sisterhood and their split, the reunion felt like closure. Yet the final twist came in 2024. Peacock announced Paris and Nicole, The Encore, a revival project designed not as a simple continuation, but as a meta-examination of their legacy. When the special aired in December, critics described it as a soap opera about a soap opera, a nostalgic glance backward at the illusion of friendship, reframed for a generation now well-versed in media literacy. Viewers no longer consumed the narrative naively. They recognized the stitching, the performance, and the industry machine that had once tried to convince them that Paris and Nicole were inseparable. That recognition is, perhaps, the true legacy. Audiences of the 2020s are far more skeptical. They understand that celebrity friendships can be tools, constructed and deconstructed at will. They see the seams of media manipulation. And yet, even in hindsight, affection lingers. Fans may acknowledge that the friendship was commodified, but they also cherish the cultural moments it produced. The irony of their legacy is dual. People loved the simple life as entertainment, but they also learned to question the reality behind it. In that sense, Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie left behind more than tabloid headlines. They became an inflection point in pop culture's understanding of celebrity authenticity. Their story embodies the double-edged sword of fame, the power to captivate millions, and the inevitability of losing control over the narrative, even. Now, when their names resurface together, the question remains, were they ever truly best friends, or were they always characters in Hollywood's longest-running performance? Perhaps the answer lies somewhere in between. The bond was real, but once it became marketable, it ceased to belong entirely to them. The legacy of Paris and Nicole's friendship isn't just the laughter, the feuds, or the reconciliation. It is the realization that in the world of celebrity, culture, authenticity, and performance are often indistinguishable, and that audiences, armed with hindsight, are finally learning to tell the difference. So in the end, what do we make of Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie? For some, they will always be the glamorous best friends who defined an era of reality television. For others, they are the cautionary tale of how Hollywood packages intimacy, sells it to the public, and then profits again when it falls apart. But the bigger question lingers. Do you believe their friendship was ever real, or was it always a Hollywood performance dressed up as truth? We want to hear your thoughts. Share your perspective in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation thoughtful and respectful. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the untold story behind celebrity culture, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Secrets Behind the Fame, and turn on the notification bell. More hidden histories and unraveling myths of Hollywood are coming soon. Because in Hollywood, nothing is ever as simple as it seems,